doing this, and I suspect that Damian in Camberley is one of those. Hello, Damian.
Hello, Robert.
Right then, I mean, do you build electric guitars?
I do, yes. Yeah, I started probably slightly like the chap on the email you just read out. Yeah, it starts out as a passion for doing something, and then if you're foolish enough, you make it your full-time occupation.
So when did yours start?
Well, I've always made things. I was kind of, even from when I was a little boy, I was obsessed with making things.
You're good with your hands, Damian.
Well, I couldn't possibly comment. And I'd always played guitar to, a fairly modest level, and I reached a point where I'd always fiddled around making things, and I thought, well, I'll make a guitar. So I made one, and it turned out quite well, so I made another one, and another one.
And were these acoustic guitars?
No, they were all electric guitars, because my main interest has always been sort of, noisy rock and roll music.
Right.
Hence, electric guitars were kind of my thing. But that was kind of what I started with, and what I've stuck with, really. I'd love to start making acoustic guitars, but the electric guitars keep me quite busy enough at the moment.
And do you make them from scratch? Is that how it works?
Absolutely, yeah. From start with, huge boards of wood, cut them up and turn them into guitars, yeah. So there's an element of sort of rough woodworking, sawing up, huge sort of 16-foot long boards, right down to, somewhat more precise machining, down to the handwork.
And do you have to have all the machine tools and everything to do this? Or?
Yeah. I have a range of mostly old woodworking machines, and some newer woodworking machines, and lots of hand tools, lots of big old pin routers, and all sorts of things. Yeah.
And who are your clients?
It's a huge range of people. The majority of everything I do seems to go overseas.
Right.
I don't do an awful lot in this country. There's a few, but the biggest percentage is overseas, and I guess it's people who probably owned a lot of the standard, regular,
the Les Pauls,
Stratocasters, that type of thing, and are perhaps looking for something a little bit different. But in that vein, everything I make is kind of, inspired by those old vintage Les Pauls, that type of thing. But I tweak a little bit.
Are they bespoke? Does someone come to you and say, I want this, or will you make and they buy it?
Well, I have a range of guitars that I make, and there's sort of a number of ways I can modify it and specify it. So I used to do a lot of sort of custom orders, but it's genuinely time-consuming to make everything.
Sure.
Everything you make is different, and they become really, really expensive.
And is it much more expensive to buy one of your guitars than it would be to buy a kind of a well-known brand?
Well, it depends at what level. All the big brands, they do things at different levels. I can't possibly compete at the lower level.
No, of course.
They have stuff made in the Far East. But against their upper range US-made stuff, I'm more than competitive.
Because it seems to me, again, the analogy I'll come back to is bicycles. There's been a huge resurgence in British kind of custom-built bicycle making.
Yeah.
I'm currently getting a bicycle made by a guy who just works on his own in a little workshop in Hackney Wick. He makes about 30 bikes a year, and that's what he does because he loves it. And he's a cyclist, and they're not going to be cheap bikes, but they're no more than buying an expensive bike from a mass manufacturer.
No, I share your passion for bicycles and cycling, and so it's a very, very good analogy. Yeah, it's somebody who loves making things and loves bicycles and wants to. And there are people like you and musicians with a similar mindset who are keen to patronise people like him and me.
And do you still play, Damian?
I still play a little. I'm happy to admit I'm a far better maker than I am player.
Well, believe me, I'm a far better cyclist than I am a maker, and I'm not a great cyclist.
Well, play to your strengths, that's what I say.
And where can people find out about them, Damian, if they're interested?
Yeah, my website is Probet Guitars, which is PROBETT .co.uk.
Damian, a pleasure to talk to you, sir. What a lovely chap. Tim in